Alright, I think we're up and running. Give me a second here. Check in on my channel, make sure the volume and stuff like that's coming through. I will... Alright, yeah, it looks like we're live. Excellent. So, and volume is... I got my, my background, I got my camera back up and running, working the way I expected it to, so... Cheers and joy to that. I now control my environment, so what everyone else can see, that's... certainly makes me feel like I understand how my computer works, if nothing else. So happy about that. Hey guys, my name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing games, I illustrate them, and I publish them online. And I've been running games in D&D since 1987. I've been using the Eberron campaign setting as my my native plane for dungeon mastering prime material playing campaigns. I've been doing that since 2006. We just had 20th year anniversary for the Eberron campaign setting in 2004. June 2004, I think is when it came out. So happy birthday, Eberron and Keith Baker. Hey, Ralph, good morning. Let me just finish up here real quick. Burp, burp, burp. How is this? Did I get that backwards? Hold on. Yeah, this is this supposed to be... This is supposed to be here, right? So you guys can see what it is I'm doing. Did I do that right? Yeah, there we go. Okay, great. So yeah, I did that backwards. My visuals anyway. Can you tell I'm already having a rough start this morning? Let's get my screen straightened out here. Hey, Ralph. That's straightened away. Oh yeah, okay. So since people can see what's going on, right? I'm on the X Twitter platform at Phil Kearney. You can follow me there to get notifications on stuff. Cheers. And like, subscribe, bell icon to get notifications when we're live in the future. Here's a full playlist of all 284 episodes to date. Here's a slew of the different books that I've created on DMsGuild previously, and right now we are creating the first adventure that I've created for Dungeon Masters Guild. Well, that's right, yeah. Eberron since 2006, and then I've been publishing content on DMsGuild for 5th edition since 2017. So this is the first adventure that I'm publishing on the DMsGuild for 5th edition, using the Eberron campaign from the perspective of me as a DM that's been playing since '87. So hopefully folks enjoy this. We've had a few different players. Well, we've had like 4 different teams, like 16 some odd people play through this a few different times, and we've had myself as well as 3 other DMs run it, and it's ran smoothly. And it's basically been a toolkit that people can build an adventure out of, and we provide you a pathway, a pre-generated adventure or format for the adventure to run through as your default setting, but then we provide the tools for you to be able to mix it up and change the theme of the campaign as you go through the adventure. It's 4:47 post meridian on my part. Okie doke. It's oh, I see what you're doing. You're doing a calibration thing. It's that would be 4:47. That would be what, in Hawaii time zone? I don't know where in the world you're at. It's 6:45 here in Seattle, and that's where I assume that's what you're trying to judge your clock on. So we made this book cover, and so we're currently working in the second act. The characters go from the village into the forest, through the forest to the manifest zone, from the manifest zone into the underground bunker to then destroy the nexus of the manifest zone. So we are currently futzing around with trees. So I'm going to drop the opacity on this down. Go to here. So we're looking at this is just a pre-generated forest clearing map that we provide for in case the characters are taking a long rest in the forest. We provide a clearing for you to do so. So I'll just have a basic camp set up, which means we'll be building tokens for like tents and campfires and small chairs or whatever, maybe sleeping bags, just to have some stuff littered around for a campsite for the characters to populate during the night if there's any combat encounters, which is a decent chance that there'll be combat encounters. Hey, what's up? Oh, it's 4:47. What, in the afternoon? I had both German and Russian players on my team for a number of years. I used to play D&D Sunday mornings at 6 a.m. here in Seattle, and we'd have a 5-hour block. No, it was 4 hours, but yeah, we played for about 3.5 hours. I don't know why I said 5. I haven't ran 5-hour games in, geez, years. Of course, when I was in high school, we'd do marathon campaigns for, like, we'd start Friday night for 3 hours, and then Saturday we played for like 7, and then on Sunday we played for 6, and intersperse that with playing Nintendo and just fucking around outside. I'm changing this language. I had created this forest map, the base of this forest map, prior to locking down the language that I use for pixels. 4 pixels or thicker is impassable. 3 pixels is like terrain detail, like the canopy of this tree, for instance, that I'm outlining right now. That'd be 3 pixels because it is structural, but it doesn't prevent the characters from traversing that space. And then 2 and 1 pixels is just refined. 2 pixels is more like decorating the structure without being any kind of significant obstacle, or even like grooves in the ground, for instance, would be 2 pixels, and then 1 pixel is like is purely like decorative, I'm struggling with like a cobblestone pattern that's pressed into it, or like a leafy texture, like bark, for instance. That would be like a 1 pixel sort of detail that is inconsequential, but just quality of life for the illustration. As such, I have to go over the structure again in the proper pixel language so I can maintain that consistency for the project. So we'll be back tonight in about 12.5 hours probably. I'll try to get started at 7. It tends to be a little late for folks to be able to tag in here. Like 10 o'clock East time is a late hour at night to start. So I'm gonna see. But it's better than 11. So I'm gonna see if I can be online from like 7 till 9 tonight. So that'll be in 12 hours, and we'll continue working on the fleet battle map in the Moon of Vokath. We'll be gearing up a playtest for that encounter here in the next couple weeks as well. So we're definitely getting into a playtesting phase of my production cycle, which means I have less stream time, because every time that I'm live on stream is a chunk of time that is dedicated for my production, and there are additional hours that off, like in the evening. I have hours that flank that before and after, as well as on Saturday. But like on weekdays, Monday through Friday, the time I stream is basically the time I have to work on projects. So when I playtest, I'm surrendering some of my production time. So that's why I make sure my primary project's always in the morning, because that's time I can't exchange for playtesting. But Monday and Thursday nights I can, and Saturdays I can. So those are basically the 3 slots in my life currently that I have available for playtesting. it's also an opportunity for me to just DM for more people. It's if you get too caught up playing it with only the same team for too long, you start to kind of disconnect from the community process of playing role-playing games. Having a dedicated group is great, but having a side project where you can dip new people in just to keep encountering more people, just simply engaging with more people, and as part of the hobby is kind of like what the hobby is about, is interacting with people. So it's like I said, it's nice to have like a set five other people that you're always around, but that is a very insular group, and it makes it difficult to, like, if you're not in the habit of gearing up on improv games and just kicking through a scenario without it being that big of a deal, then running a game will always be a big deal. Being able to just throw together and then tear apart games on occasion is a way for you to be able to continue to control the space that you're operating inside of, because you can create and destroy those spaces without being concerned about if you can recreate a new one, because you're just in the habit of creating new teams. So I'm rambling, don't mind me. I don't know why I'm on a tear about that. I'm just, whatever it is, Muse has decided that's what we're talking about right now, so cheers to that. I'm trying to figure out what to do with the Elemental Key book that I published on DMsGuild, because they got rid of the Way of the Four Elements. I should just keep the Way of the Four Elements, but update it, and we'll have, because the Elemental Warrior is going to be in the Martial Powers book, but the half casting aspect of what the Way of the Four Elements is for the monk, they're effectively erasing. That, like, we don't want to have the monk have access to a bunch of spells like that, and that opens up the design space of well, we're going to anyway as a homebrew team, so I can then go in and just redefine what kind of spells are used as techniques. And I think the way that I want to simplify it, since they did basically abandon it and leave it for me to do whatever I want with, I think I will rebuild the spell list so it's all instant and non-concentration effects, so that it doesn't tamper with the sustained powers that the elemental monk would have access to, and then we can just cherry pick a list of prepared powers from the martial power system to integrate into the list that would seem more like intuitive for the Way of the Four Elements, because the mechanical language, the technical language about elemental mana is too valuable to throw aside. And it's going to get some attention in the Martial Powers book, but it doesn't get nearly the attention that Color Mana does with like a huge string of books, while the Elemental Key book is only like 20 pages, and like 6 of them are about actual elemental magic. And it's a lot looser, it's a more loosey-goosey system than Color Magic is, or the 8 Schools is, because Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition in general. No, it's not a 5th edition issue. It's a Dungeons and Dragons issue. It's a D&D issue that the 4 elements that the D&D universe is built on doesn't easily correspond with the 10 types of damage that you can deal in D&D. There's a definite disconnect and disharmony between those two concepts that Color Mana obviously actually fixes, but to translate elements through Color Mana is just a better step. But it's still not ideal. It's not themed around the elements, because you can squeeze the 4 elements into 3 colors, or 4, but not necessarily the way that you would think. I'm not going to dive into that. Like, black mana is weird. as an elemental source, while white in the D&D world like can duplicate as cold. It's there's nothing about white other than card history indicating cold that white has anything to actually do with cold other than snow is white, you know, and that's kind of cheap. It's everything else about Magic is much deeper than that. So the misalignment in the Dungeons and Dragons 5e game, well, Dungeons and Dragons game language in general, doesn't easily jive with how color mana sits, and it just even less so than the 4 elements. So it takes a lot of work to be able to figure out how to make all that stuff work together. And so that's where I think the value of the Elemental Keybook still exists, even though they rebuilt the way of the 4 elements into the Elemental Warrior. And I like the Elemental Warrior. I'm fine with it as the Elemental Warrior, which is why that will be in the Martial Powers book, replacing the Way of the 4 Elements. But I think the Way of the 4 Elements still has value. But I'm thinking about, like, instead of being Elemental Key, we're going to change it to Elemental Mana and start leaning more into the Elemental language. And maybe instead of just being the Way of the 4 Elements for Monk, maybe build out Elemental Druid and Elemental Barbarian and Elemental Sorcerer, to make it like a 30-page book instead of just a 20-page book about monks. Since they'll have monk language in the Martial Powers book, Elemental Key can become just a general book about elements, translating the color of the spells in Dungeons and Dragons into elements, and then providing some examples of different types of characters utilizing it. Sorcerers, druids, barbarians, probably rangers, and monks. That's a good set. I think that's a good set. Hey, what's up? Psychic damages and elements? Not particularly. Ah! Fun. Right on, man. I see what you're doing there. Good flavor. Good flavor. Black is generally psychic. No, it's necrotic, force, acid, and poison. But if it were to be bent into an elemental system, I could see necrotic being cold damage. I think that makes more sense than anything else. Like if I had to make necrotic damage have an elemental source, yeah. No, wait. It's air, earth, fire, and water. Jesus, where would necrotic be? Earth, I guess? Dust to dust? Does that make the most sense? Because, like, if you get disintegrated, you're reduced to dust. So I think, yeah. Necrotic damage would have to be earth. Radiant would be, I think, most naturally fire. And then we just have to come up with, like, the emotional tenets that go along. And different mechanical effects from the game, like charm and stuff like that. I think charm falls into water. Psychic damage is water. Because you can't talk when you're underwater, so you have to use mental. Like, telepathy is a natural solution to aquatic creatures. And we already see a lot of them have that in Dungeons and Dragons, so that means that psychic damage is connected to the water element, which makes perfect sense to me as well. Which means that, like, water is like a mind control sort of manipulation sort of element. Which jives because in Airbender, the blood elementals were able to control control people's bodies, like a puppet master. So I think there's some traction there. That'll be a good conversion for the book. It's obviously it's going to be a lot more work, but I think it'll be worth it. It also makes me think that I should pull the Elemental Key book from the Color Mana bundle once 2024 publishes, because it isn't, it's out of date and it's irrelevant. If it was out of date, it would be one thing. If it was irrelevant, it would be another thing. If it's both, that's intolerable. All damage types should be their own elements. Maybe. We don't need the abundance of damage. 5e does not need this amount of damage types. There's 10 types of There's 10 types of magical damage plus the 3 physical damages of bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing, and you don't have to define any of them. It was damage types is a holdover from previous editions. And there used to be, I don't think, well, there used to just be magical damage, which is what force is now. And then basically fire, cold, acid, and lightning. Yeah, fire, cold, acid, lightning. Those are basically the 4 elements that 4 elemental damage types plus just raw magic damage is force. So it used to just be those 5 things. And then they introduced poison became a damage type instead of just a condition. And in 3rd edition, I think they integrated necrotic, force, and radiant damage as different things. And that's where we got. And then psychic damage as well. And psionics, I think they introduced. In 3rd edition, they introduced psychic damage, and that's how we got to the 10 damage types. It's you don't need damage types. You need damage types if there's a meta game between what kind of damage can my team do versus what kind of damage hurts the creature that I'm fighting. Like a more of a Monster Hunter themed game, you can have a lot of damage types because ideally your characters are dynamic. And being able to change the type of damage that they do, which is one of the biggest problems in D&D throughout ever is if you create immunities to a spell damage type, and if that's the only type of damage that your team does, you're kind of fucked. And the gacha system that original D&D was, that to an extent that's okay. But with the way that WotC frames characters as being something that's not disposable, that they're recurring characters that you're building personality and attachment to. Being able to swap around what kind of damage you deal actually makes damage immunities, weaknesses, and resistances a part of the game, part of the research of understanding what kind of monster you're facing, all that stuff. It just gives, because you can adapt the type of damage that you deal. And for the most part, parties don't have the ability to adapt what type of damage they deal, which is one of the things that the martial power system introduces. But again, it's key to this conversation about elements and having a bloated damage type system inside of 5e, and that the 2024 hasn't done anything to refine it. So we have to find ways to integrate that vast damage system into the core of the game experience, so it's more fun. So by having bosses that can shift their damage types, gives players reasons to have access to multiple types of damage, which creates a sort of tactical mini game inside of your combat of figuring what kind of damage you want to do, which is one of the things that we offer with Martial Power System. I'm very proud of that. Oh my god, where's this tree stop? Jesus. So much tree that we're doing. I'm also on the rest. Necrotic would be despair, psychic motivation, cold cruelty. Oh, interesting. I see what you're doing. You're associating an emotion with each element. That's cool. Or each damage type as its own element. I see what you're doing there. Generally, yeah, you probably want to have like 3 or 4 defining words, like for emotions or like mechanics inside of the game. Once we actually get there, I'll be doing a deep dive in that topic of like assigning tenets to different aspects of your magic system. But yeah, you're on the right path. But like the color mana system has like 5 defining statements for each color, which covers pretty much all of the ground and scope of what 5e D&D mechanics offer, like condition effects and stuff like that. Cha-cha. Tree done. How many more trees to go? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more to go. Sweet. All right, let's keep doing this and keep babbling about stuff. Because this is the gig. I finished the backgrounds for this adventure. There's or not the backgrounds, the alternate plot hooks. There's a default plot line. Plot hook storyline, and then there's 5 alternate plot hooks that provide the characters different motives and resources and objectives inside of the adventure, as well as different pieces of information about like what's going on. The default adventure, you know nothing about what's going on at all. Some of the alternate plot hooks are the organization that hires you knows exactly what's going on, and it's their fault, and they need your help to fix it. So there's a wide range of information that characters can have coming into this adventure, which makes it fun for like a professional DM to want to run the adventure multiple times, because the DM can mix up and change how the adventure is created to see how it changes the decisions that a team makes, and that's valuable. That's literally one of the things that professional DMs need to do, is be paying attention to how well the different beats land. Like these subplot options I attempted. Like I really want to get good at Curse of Strahd as a paid game, so that people that want to play Curse of Strahd will come to my performance of Curse of Strahd and provide good reviews for it, so other people will be willing to check it out as well. Like that is a path of income for a professional DM. And so they want to specialize in content, and there is no like real official content for Eberron. So it's not like people show up to say, oh, I want to play this Eberron game specifically, blah. So DMs are kind of on their own out there about like what kind of a game they want to run for Eberron, and that doesn't have as much street appeal as the more quote-unquote famous adventures that have been created by Wizards of the Coast to play, like Storm King's Thunder or whatever, any of them. Descent into Avernus, Curse of Strahd is like the really big standout. One second. But like Strixhaven Curriculum of Chaos, for example, I think it's structured around a 4-year like a 4-year school year, but there's not nearly enough content to fill like 12 hours worth of game. So you can pad it out with your own stuff, but you could at 12 hours times 4, 48 hours. You could, if you wanted to run like a 4-hour game, you could break that up into 12 sessions that people could invest in participating in, and you could just have it break down into a seasonal thing. So like for the next 4 weeks, this is the team that we're going to run. You can reserve a seat. And then the next season, people level up. It's the next year of school. You could opt in new players into the table, but still have still move forward with your year of school. So like if you were to build a rolling campaign of 1 to 4, you'd always have new students coming in, but you'd be able to change every 12 weeks. You'd be able to change the plot that's going on inside of the school. So as new students come into the school, they're dealing with new adventure challenges from years 1 to 4, or like there's a theme every 12 sessions. There'd be like a new campaign theme, and then characters at different levels at different years of school would approach the challenge in different ways. That's an interesting, like a Living Greyhawk sort of campaign that could happen, like a rolling university campaign. That's interesting. And each college could have would have an evolving team of Mage Tower athletes. So like this year, Prismari might have like a lot of barbarians on their team this year, but next year they might have like more monks and rogues, stuff like that. It could be really interesting. And you could have different year of like different varsity teams, or different leagues based on the year that you're there. And like you could start like at it could be like 3, 7, 11, 15, or maybe 5, 9, 14. That's 4. That should be 13. 4. That's not bad. That's a good spread. Year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. 1. There you go. We could kick it like that. 1, 5, 9, 13, 17. It could be freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, and then postgraduate. That could be the way to go. And then that'd be 15 weeks. So 3, 6, 9, 12. I like the idea of tacking on the 17 at the end, but honestly, that could be sacrificed easily, more easily than any other ones. This wouldn't feel too bad, I suppose. But it could be 5, 9, 13, 17 instead. You're not really a freshman at 5th level though. So this is probably a proper split, and then a potential postgraduate school. Yeah, I like that. I like that idea as far as like a theme goes. All right, let's keep at it. That'd be a lot of fun. That'd be a cool thing to do. It's doing canopy. Whatever's inside of this line is under the canopy of the tree and has cover. And outside of the canopy, none. We're going to do the canopy. We're going to clean up the trunks on the interior, and then we're going to make shrub and briar tokens to populate as well, because this is a very sterile forest environment. This is not a wild forest. This is a very with this sparseness between the trees. This is a very like this is how trees should be packed in a forest. Just like one continuous canopy line with a bunch of trunks squeezed in together, forming basically like a community mass of foliage. And so with it being sparse like this means that there's something stronger than trees that have been growing in these spaces in between. And then you have natural clearings where something fell apart. So there should be like a felled log, like a couple of felled logs here that would cause this to be more sparse. But the undergrowth should be filling in all the gap between anything that's standing out like this, because shrubbery and briar will reclaim area faster than trees can. Trees have to punch through that stuff to be able to grow back up. So once the tree falls, natural clearings like this can occur. So the cycle of life, how fun. So let's get back to making foliage. And again, once we complete this task, we'll have briar and shrubbery as tokens available for us to use, basically moving forward to other adventures. And we can just recycle these different maps and reuse them in different adventures in the future if we continue making them, assuming that we have the same sort of like forest terrain that we need to encounter. So I'm going to do 2 of these. This first one is a clearing for a long rest, and the next one is going to be the tree where NPC, like the first encounter in the forest, the team is recommended to encounter our non-combatants cotton trees with undead basically waiting for them to fall out of the tree to eat. And your characters show up and you clear out the monsters, you help the characters down, the characters are thankful, they give you what information they have about what's going on further into the woods to help steer the characters in the direction that they need to go so the adventure can happen. And depending on what your plot line is, will change what characters are stuck in the tree, because you'll want different type of information depending on what your objectives are, so that they are helpful to you. You change who they are and what information they have available to them, and then provide you with additional either information or visual aids or resources or whatever. So we just finished straightening out all of those variables and building them into basically what has become Appendix 3, alternate plot hooks. And so that's all fleshed out and proper now. So there's the 5 alternate plot hooks, and then there's a section about blending those different hooks together, or like mixing them together. Like now that you know what the base, like when you read the adventure, you know what the base adventure plot line is. Here's 5 different ways to approach the adventure and how the adventure changes with each of those new perspectives. And then after that is, now that you understand all the different perspectives, here's how you as a DM can blend those different ideas together to create new situations on the fly, depending on which types of factions you want to introduce as antagonists in the adventure. Like you could decide that the Silver Flame and the Gatekeepers are running around inside of your adventure on top of your characters using, like, say, the default hook of being sheriffs. So now you've got 2 vigilante teams that want to kill and destroy everything, while you're just trying to bring everyone to justice, and killing them isn't necessarily the right solution. And both the Gatekeepers and the Silver Flame Church have no fucking business being there in the first place, so technically they're enemies. They're invading your territory, and they have no right to be there. So if you can catch them out, you might want to arrest them too. So you can bring charges against the church and charge them for violating peace treaties from the last war, and then have a tribunal go up and create a big rigmarole and political stuff, and it happens, and then you can take your campaign in that direction if you wanted to. Or your characters might be like super on board with them murdering stuff, and they're going to look the other way because you're killing necromancers, and you could frame, you could plainly frame that it was, or not even frame, but just make it known that it was Silver Flame Zealots that came in and killed the necromancers here, so that your team doesn't get any heat for it. Any criminal organization that wants to operate in the area is naturally going to start casing out the law enforcement in the area, and that's you. If this adventure is successful for you using the default plotline, you become the law enforcement in the area, and those become your decisions to make about like how to handle disputes, and is there like establishing patrols to maintain security. And the mercenaries that were working for the necromancers are more than happy to work for a legitimate government-sanctioned operation that gives them some credibility and stability and a lifestyle choice and a career in staying paramilitary. A lot of fun options there that you can take 8th level characters to expand out into dealing with bigger threats. Super cool opportunities there. I'm going to close that out and then reopen it. Man, I'm having some crazy time dilation right now. You looking for any people to play the next round of Martial Powers? Oh, we got you. And I think we've got... one of my Eberron campaign testers, Kitty Loaf, I think she's involved. We might have Shaywin back. And then I've got about 4 or 5 different inquiries out there right now. We need at least 3 to rumble, and I like to have 5 for padding so that we don't have a game fall apart. So we've got a week from now to get that sussed out, and I think we will. So we should probably have at least 4 by the time we fire up, which will be sufficient for us to fire things up. Yeah, let's do. No, this is where we're at. For some reason, I thought I finished my tree, but alas, earwax. So we should be having. If we get to Thursday and we don't have our last 1 or 2 people filled in, then I'll do more of an open call and see if we can just grab people. The problem is that there's reading involved, and you got to be interested in doing the reading to be able to effectively help. And it's a play test, so it doesn't have the same solidity as a normal campaign would, because it has a beginning and the end. And the characters are basically just little snapshots. There's no real emotional growth that's going to happen. And you have to think. So that's not necessarily the kind of game that everyone wants to play. So it's difficult to get a playtesting team, because if you have a steady time that you're available each week and you like playing role-playing games, chances are that time is already filled with a game that you're emotionally attached to. But this is why I need to continue growing the channel, so that I can more easily find people that are interested in the games that I put together, so that we'll have a larger roster, a larger pool of willing participants to be able to make this stuff happen. See, I started doing game design before I became popular on YouTube. While a lot of people that are first popular on YouTube that then become game designers have a large audience that's willing to test the games that they're designing. So I did this whole thing backwards. I should really just stop doing artwork and just start pumping out lists of like best magic items for warlocks. That would probably be more efficient at building a large enough audience for me to be able to reliably get a playtesting team just to say, hey, I need playtesters. Show up on my Discord and let me know if you're available on a Monday night, and have like 15 people respond. That's where I want to get to. But I don't make enough. Or rather, any how to play videos. They're all my comments about gaming stuff is like hidden inside the time I spend here on artwork. I keep talking to that. I want to extract elements, conversations from these live streams, and I've yet to do so. That's something that's a point of improvement that I can make as an entertainment channel. Actually, make this stuff more accessible so people can hear the shit that I'm talking about. That'll probably help me achieve my goal more quickly. My muse really likes that. She's really like, yeah, we've been talking about this for a while, Kearney. When are you going to start dedicating the time? It's like, well, baby, you know, if I do that, I can't make books as quickly. It's a real conundrum. For me to be productive, I have to start I have to limit how much I'm spending time creating. If I'm not creating, I don't feel productive. That's a first world challenge that Phil has. He'll figure it out. Yeah, tomorrow at lunch we'll continue filling in the details for the new region in the hex crawl that we're going to run the playtest through. good like that. I'm gonna take some of these trees and make little vignettes out of them too, like little standy trees, like little standalone tokens, so you can populate your own. Once we have the tree tokens done and the foliage, the underbrush tokens done, they'll just be able to again just litter them in and just be able to build maps. So we're making some prefabricated ones here, but we're also in this prefabrication process. These are each individual assets that can be extracted and then compiled into a toolkit. So it'll be a little forest toolkit that you'll have. A little forest campsite toolkit. That's not a bad idea for your asset pack. Nice. No, that's supposed to be canopy. Dunzo. Where are we at on time? 7:40. It's got like what, 15 minutes left? What do I got on my clock? My clock's giving me another 10 minutes, so we should be able to get another 2 of these done. And then we'll come back tomorrow, we'll finish up the canopies, and then we'll clean up the trunks. After the trunks, we'll build the underbrush. After the underbrush, we'll build tent, campfire, and other camp resources. And then we'll color it all. So this map will probably be done by Tuesday next week, and then we'll do another one. But we'll already have these assets extracted, so it should be easier for us to be able to just lay those things in and get that done probably by Friday. So by Friday next week, we should probably have both of the forest maps done and extracted all of the forest tokens to be able to create your own. And then at that point, we'll be able to take the camping tokens that we made from here and then add them back into the flooded fort and the gatehouse maps for where soldiers are stationed. And at that point, I think all we have are a few monster tokens to do, and we'll be done with all of our assets. So we're looking at that, having that assets completed by end of August. I think by the end of August we'll be done with all of the map and asset tokens, and we should also at that point be doing layouts. So the only thing we have left in the adventure to actually write at this point is blending plot hooks, including expanding the adventure beyond the scope of what we have written, like suggestions for additional adventure paths. And then I think since we'll be seeing. Oh God, we're not. Well, yeah, we'll be seeing new monsters in the player's handbook in September. So we'll probably have an opportunity for us to revisit monster creation, see if there's any significant changes or information that we have about how monsters are being designed for 2024, since we won't be getting the book until March 2025, I think. But there's going to be a slew of monsters in the player's handbook, and there might be some light guidelines on like how we're creating these things, or other designers might extract the formula of how things are there, or be able to verify if anything what has changed. So that'll be useful. So we can spot fix anything that needs to be spot fixed in the mechanics of this adventure. Once September comes out, so that might be some minor revisions that we'll need to make to challenges. But for the most part, at that point, we should be doing page layouts. So this thing's starting to get into the pipeline, man. We're starting to spiral with this. This is really, really good news. How many more maps do you have? Yeah. So this one and the encounter is called Up a Tree. So the Up a Tree map, just those two. But then we have to do a little bit of cleanup for the like I said, the flooded fort and the gatehouse map need a little bit additional texturing and assets, the camping assets they can make use of. And there's like maybe, I want to say another like 6 monster tokens that need to be finished. And then they should be done. And then we'll move into so the text and layouts move independently from the artwork, the art assets that are included as game pieces. Once the layouts are done, we'll be able to start putting. We'll start knowing where. How to say? Since the maps have to be broken up and dropped into positions on the page during the layout process, we can actually still be correcting maps if necessary as we're going, because each is going to be just basically extracted. We can put placeholders in until the map is finished, and then we basically just take snapshots of the map and we extract it. We drop it in as an illustration onto the page that's talking about that place on the map. So the map itself becomes a page illustration for the adventure itself. So the visual assets that we're creating for running the adventure become a good majority of visual assets needed to actually illustrate the adventure, and then any little weird, like little pocket spaces that make the page look empty if it's not present, that's where we can start filling in little flavor details to help set mood for the piece and create like a little snapshot image instances of stuff that's going on. Anyway, ramble. There's at least one more adventure I know I want to make for Eberron specifically. It's also in Carnath, and it's for 5th level characters. And I think once I finish this one, I think being able to make the next one will be quicker and easier, because I've gone through the process. This is the first adventure I've actually made for sale. So obviously it's going to take me a long time to build it right. where I am satisfied it's ready to go for people to spend money on. But the next one should go quicker. Hey, all right, we finished that. Good. We still have up. We're almost out of time. I'm gonna go ahead and set it there. That's a good place for us to stop today. Do you wish you ever had anyone to help you out with all of this work? Well, yes and no. I have like this. I have a co-writer for this, so I didn't create this all by myself, and I have an editor. For the Martial Powers book, I am the sole writer of that project, but I have an editor for that project as well. So I always hire an external editor to make sure that I've got somebody reading my stuff. Like the Spelljammer book, I had a co-writer and an editor. What to say about that? It's the I can like the Pacts and Patrons of Ravnica, for instance. I had four other writers with me and an editor, and that was a super fun project to do. And I like where everything landed. And as the project supervisor, I had final word on different mechanical design stuff. So I like everything that's in that book. And it was really, really fun collaborating on it. But if I'm going to bring in a lot of people to help with the book, it has to be something that it is absolutely a positive experience that was profitable for them to do it. And at the level that I'm at right now, with the niche content that I create, it's really questionable if working with me is profitable at all. So like I can't hire full-time people to work with me because I can't bring the level of compensation that being full-time, investing your time with me would require. So I'm very much working in a hobbyist space right now, and there's a number of people that I've worked with before that I would not mind collaborating with again in the future. But I have this, like, if I have an imposter syndrome, it's that me being aware that I'm not a studio yet. I'm not creating like $300,000 Kickstarter projects where I can hire somebody for $20,000 to bang something out with me for the next 6 months. You know, it's like I'm not there yet. So while I am small, I think working small team and light like that is where I gotta be at. And if the gods deem it appropriate for me to be able to build a studio where others can count on me for their mortgage payments, then I will have earned my place to that space, and I'll know who I need to be when I get there, I guess. But I'd like to. I aspire to running a business in that sense, but I also am protective of the creative process that I am a part of that creates these things in the first place, and I'm very protective of that. I don't want to see me losing that energy that allows me to create these books in the first place by trying to commoditize it too much, you know? It's a real delicate, it's a real moral quandary that I face. But I love the struggle. I wouldn't be here if I didn't love the struggle. So yeah, ultimately, yeah, I'd love to have a team of people that I can have a concept. They know how it works. They understand how it works, and just be good at building that stuff. That would be great. But considering the complexity of concepts that I deal with and the effort to make them simple and easily digestible, I suspect that there's people out there that have the mechanical chops to just grok what I get and be able to build something solid in an efficient timeline. They should already be working for really, really good game studios. So, anyway, that's it for today, guys. I'm going to be back. I endeavor to be back in 11 hours at 7 o'clock. We'll be back on working on Spelljammer for 2 hours tonight. And so, 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock. That is my goal to be here again. To continue working on the Vocath Fleet Battle. I think we're doing little vignette map pieces for the Vocath Cloud system, and then I think by Friday, if we aren't done doing that, if we are done doing that, then we'll be working on the actual breakdown of the combat encounter round by round, for us to be able to start getting our head wrapped around how a playtest would go. So we're getting into the pipe of doing mechanical stuff for the Vocath Fleet Battle. We're almost done with the art assets for that. So anyway, I'll see you guys tonight maybe. And Rel, thanks for hanging out and asking great questions. I appreciate it. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers.